everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be taking a look at Lizzy Stewart's It's Not What You Thought It Would Be, which is out from Fantagraphics. This is one of the many books that I'm working through that I grabbed in the Fanabuck sale. I really enjoyed this book. It has an autobiographical memoir aspect to it. It could feel like that, but the way it's written and stuff kind of can be like this is also presented as fiction. There's not a lot of things that make it really clear that this is from someone's life, but also, the content of the book seems pretty autobiographical in nature. But I really like that it takes on a span of time and it peeks in on someone's life. So we'll take a look at that. Even right here in the front, there is this yearbook look. So it sets you up on the end papers just for this idea of someone reflecting on the past and moving forward. And obviously from the title, it's talking about that growing up is, your life doesn't necessarily turn out how you thought it would be. And so it has that reflective quality from an adult standpoint that I find much more compelling than basically like a coming of age story like that, where you follow the character. I don't know, it's just a little bit different in the way the structure of the book works. The other thing that I find really interesting about this book is that Lizzy Stewart is changing styles with each section. So she's picking moments from her life or the character's life, whoever it is, and rendering them in a different style to kind of capture the mood of each little bit that she tells. And through all the bits, you get a bigger picture of how someone's personality evolves, how their friends come and go. There will be a friend that seems all important in one chapter and then you don't see them again, and then maybe the character will reference them in another couple chapters. So it has that structure too, which I think really matches life well. And just, some of the little observations about life and things throughout here are really nice. But you'll see in this first one, when she's really young, you've got this more like ink washy style. Here's really cool, just remembering like a place where they used to hang out and play with kind of a second color over top of it for the flowers. I think is a really nice look. Here you switch over to like a type of colored pencil look here, and more clean line cartooning, things like that. I think it's really nice. She's talking about learning to stop being embarrassed, and at some point it just sort of passed, and I like that. That you can tell someone all day like these things that they're dealing with, and a lot of the times the advice is easier said than done. That these are things that you kind of just have to do, and she's talking about that to some extent, which is really nice. This here again, big switch in style. I really like the look of this one, and also this is just about her and her friend climbing on a roof. And this is something me and my friends used to do, so I really relate to that. And she gets it exactly right in the dialogue. The appeal of being on the roof is, I like it up here. It's like we don't really exist anymore. No one knows we're up here. No one cares. And there's like no one we can meet. It's cool. It's like we're in another country. Yeah, we've stepped out of our lives for a bit. And that's all really accurate. That's exactly like what me and my friends were doing. We would go out at night and climb up on different roofs. I mean, I was totally trespassing and illegal, I'm sure, but we even like hauled furniture up on top of a couple different roofs, and had like these little setups that we would go and some guys would like smoke their hookah or whatever, and we'd sit around and talk philosophy. And so this is really kind of this page right here really speaks to me. And I think it's a bit selfish, but that's always makes the autobiography memoir type of thing more accessible to me. I know it's supposed to be when I'm like trying to get other people's experiences, but when they're too alien to me, depending on how people handle it, it's just hard for me to get into. But when there's these little moments where, even though this is obviously a girl growing up in the UK, when there's those little moments of crossover, and of course you can't manage whether your audience has crossover or not, but they really hook me in and allow me to feel the other emotions in the book. So that was a really nice moment for me. Here, I just really like the quality of the girl being absorbed. She's putting in her music, and it's pretty much all silent, and she's just walking home, just looking at the stuff around her. It kind of reminds me of the way Jiro Taniguchi's Walking Man works, where it's like these healing comics that are just about life and absorption in the things that you tend to not look at. And also, just again, one of those things where it's like how many people as teenagers needed that like checkout moment where you have your own little world in music. So I think that's one of the things she's really good at, is finding those moments that are likely to connect with the most amount of people. So if the roof one doesn't connect to you, then the music one's going to, those kinds of things. Also, again, we get another change to a color pencil art here, but also the dialogue throughout the book is really great. So I'm just going to read this page because it has this natural flow to it that, I don't know, really struck me while I was reading the book. So, did you hear that Sam Harris is pregnant again? Really? Is that her third? Imagine having 3 kids at 21. I can't even keep a bonsai tree alive. I took a look at my mom and think, fuck, you had 2 kids at my age? I wonder if she was scared. Of course she was. You think? She just always seems so together. She's your mom. She never let you see if she wasn't okay. Not when you were small, anyways. I suppose, but even that's a miracle, right? What, repressing your true feelings? No, like being able to control them, not like crying in the supermarket or laughing hysterically when you see a garden gnome. Do you do that? Oh, yeah, cool. And so the flow, that's really, really nice to me. It sounds really natural, but also the depth of what they're talking about in one page, this idea of what you have to do as a parent to make life better for your kids. And this is something me and Tori have been talking about a lot lately. We just had Jack here, and there's a lot of types of conversations that me and her have to work on our relationship as we continue to grow. And it's really hard to have those when kids are around. And, there was a night where I was having a panic attack, and it's like, I can't let the kids see that I'm having a panic attack. So, just all of that's kind of embedded in one page. And that's where I'm saying, like, even though this has a memoir aspect to it, this is really not an artist talking about themselves. They're using their life to talk about things that everyone deals with, and maybe that's the difference. It really is something about picking these moments that are so singular to a person that they actually speak really largely to the universal, and I really appreciate that about this. There's also some really great visual tricks here, like as these characters basically have a discussion about their relationship and their relationship falling apart. These people used to be really great friends. You see that Lizzy Stewart start having the balloons space closer together and further apart, and here it says we're just on different paths, and those balloons grow further and further apart. So these other little tiny cues, formal cues that really help land the content, are really, really well managed. Here's just a look at another one of the styles. Just this really orange and like purpley blue look on it. And again, you get these references back to them sitting on the roof. You get these things where they repeat in people's lives, but now they're much older, and they're talking about different things, but you can mentally start to associate the different sections of the book in different ways. In this one, there's a really interesting approach to the art here where, and this is something I like about the book too, she's experimenting with different types of comics. This is one where all of the words are in captions, and then the pictures kind of run ancillary to that. So it's almost like, well, you don't really need, in this case, you don't need the pictures. It's mostly word specific, I think is what Scott McCloud would call it. But there is an impact of the way the two relate. And then really, really smartly, Lizzy uses this again to create a separation between somebody. So the use of the text as this barrier of, like, if you're doing your interior monologue, you're basically at a remove from other people, and then actually placing the text in the gap between the two people and showing her reaching across, like, words as the communicative technology that we have, but also like a veil or a barrier. So there's just I think a lot of really, really smart design decisions like that, formal decisions with comics. Here's a quote that I really liked. She says, "You know what else is grim though? I'm totally going to write about this." She's talking about seeing this guy on the bus and she's like, I'm gonna write about this. Why can't anything happen without me exploiting it for art? So I like that self-reflective thing. I think that's something that me and Sean always both are a little bit, we've talked about it a lot, always a little bit hesitant about with the autobio, is that you're kind of sucking anyone and everyone around you into your work. Whereas if you can take like a conversation like this that you saw and then synthesize it into some kind of fiction, it feels maybe a little less predatory. And so I like that she's reflecting on that and grappling with that. It seems like if someone's grappling with that, and just in general, it seems, I would hope that Lizzy Stewart's next book is more into the fiction, because I think she would really excel at that. This is another, I think, really, really great use of the combination of words and images. So again, you have this character that's, kind of walking along, self-absorbed. You can see what the character's thinking in their head, talking about kids being loud and were we ever that loud, that kind of thing about growing up. And it seems very calm and introspective. And then all of a sudden they walk into the cafe and meet their friends, and you get this ramp up of how much space the words take. So it becomes not an interior reflective thing about the, being absorbed in the world around you and your own thoughts, but now it's entirely about what other people are saying. So again, just a really great visual formal trick. Cool little illustration here, very Dash Shaw vibes to me, with all the colors in the background behind the line art. This is an interesting story about getting involved in the ASMR world and the kind of bizarre connoisseurship that exists there, that also obviously exists in comics. I'm sitting here as doing a connoisseur thing, talking about print quality, formal aspects like that. So tying that kind of thing to other types of connoisseurship in the world, I think, is really fun. And this is something that I don't get at all. So this is one of those things where it gives me a peek into what other people's interests are. But I've now been hooked by all these other things. Here's another really great just bit of dialogue. I don't know if this is made up or something that someone heard, but her friend here says, "I'm a Cronin Bergie crier." So, her crying is so awful and ugly that it verges on Cronenberg's body horror. It's just those kind of bits of dialogue that really make this work. And then I think this also really, really landed with me as a acute observation about reality, especially as someone who went to art school and also dislikes going to weddings and stuff. They're talking about weddings. It says, "Last year I went to nine. I could have sworn I'd carefully curated a selection of small, progressive, borderline socialist friends who would all balk at the very concept of marriage. And yet," and then her friend says, "God, me too. Last year I went to the wedding of a friend who I used to go to fucking pro-anarchy events with at uni. She used to bin dive instead of food shopping, but she still had a 25-tier cake with hand-piped flowers, and someone brought in especially to fold napkins into hummingbirds." And that part cracked me up. I wrote "based" on there. That's like a based in reality comment. I definitely known people who did that kind of bin diving lifestyle, and then you watch them get older and they settle down a little bit more as they have higher stakes. So I thought that was really funny. And then here, I think, is another really good formal thing where she's kind of bullying her friends with her ideas, and the balloon literally weighs down on the character's head. So that gives you a pretty good scope of the different styles, how formally clever this book is, how well written the book is, the type of standout dialogue that's in the book, those little one-liners, the kind of depth of perception about life and things like that. So I really, really highly recommend this book. It's really well structured, really well drawn, really well written. And I really, really, really look forward to anything else Lizzy Stewart does. So highest recommendation on this one. If you enjoy what we're doing with the channel and you want to support us, there's two ways to do that. The first is through our Patreon. We have two different tiers of engagement on there. The The first tier, you get early access to our videos. At the second tier, you get exclusive sneak peeks of the 2 graphic novels that Sean and I are working on, our personal work, as well as the ability to participate and vote in what happens next in our ongoing webcomic experiment, Prane Day. Any of the money that we make from the Patreon goes back into buying the books that we review, so that lets us keep the channel going, put some money in other creators and publishers' pockets. We really appreciate that. And then if you want to support Living the Line itself, the best thing to do is to support what Sean's doing with Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at one of the books you can buy from him now. House on Fire by Matt Battaglia is a just gorgeous book where Matt's kind of making an emotional response to the years of COVID and wrapping that into a sci-fi dystopian future that really the sci-fi dystopian's backgrounded, and you're focused on the emotional journey of 2 characters in a really beautiful way. And then that's enhanced by Matt's like really awesome, loose, kind of Paul Popish dry brush work. And then Sean and Matt have worked to get this second kind of orange spot color in there that's going to look really, really beautiful, and has allowed Matt to use his dry brush technique to add tone to the thing too. So with Sean's production technique, this is going to be a gorgeous book with a lot of heart.
Like and subscribe and hit the bell, please, so Carson can finish reading his books and let me go home.